Commercial kitchens from our favourite restaurants and fast food places produce some of the toughest and thickest grease. If left uncleaned, it can cause serious damage to sewage systems, health risks from contaminated food, and even kitchen fires. Here's how some of the greasiest parts of restaurant kitchens are professionally deep cleaned. Jay Lopez, the owner of Kleenex, walks us through how his team cleans a restaurant's kitchen exhaust system, which extracts the fumes from the kitchen.
Today I'm going to be walking you through how we clean the kitchen exhaust system in a restaurant. The purpose of a kitchen exhaust system is to extract the fumes from a kitchen in a commercial setting. In order to remove grease, you have to understand grease. What holds the oil together is the fat. And once the first layer is up, it becomes a magnet and it attracts more and more and more. Everything is cleaned from top to bottom. You would start cleaning the fan first. We're using a high-end degreaser with a little potassium hydroxide and sodium hydroxide. Those two chemicals combined create miracles in destroying the fat and the grease. In our case, we time it somewhere between 10 to 15 minutes. Once we see that the grease starts to melt, at that point we know we need to apply hot water and remove it. Because anything longer at that point is going to start to destroy the metal. Once the fan has been cleaned, the next step would be the duct. That's the part that connects the fan to the hood. This level is considered extreme. That was a fire waiting to happen. I would say this is about a year worth of grease. It all depends on the volume of cooking. If this is moderate cooking, this is about a year's worth of grease. That's a lot.
The duct is cleaned in a few different steps. During this process, we use a tool made by Guardian. This tool is known as the Easy Magnetic Duct Scraper. It has magnets set into the tool and a razor blade on each side. Once it's clinched to the duct, it is manually moved forward and backwards until the grease is removed. This forward and backward method assures that the grease buildup will be removed from both sides.
It'll go from the yellow color all the way into the black. When it's in the black level, that's an extreme level. That means that the system has not been properly maintained.
In these types of designs, we'll use duct spinners and duct brushes. The duct spinner is designed to self-rotate within a protective cage and spray water at high speed, which dislodge buildup from the metal duct. We use a combination of a foaming agent and a degreaser. The foam is used as a delivering agent and it allows the degreaser to stay in contact with the grease for a longer period. If foam was not used, the degreaser would drip off the grease.
The next step would be the hood and the filters. See, the filters are your first line of defense. What the filters is doing is holding back heat and it's holding back most of that grease. When the filters no longer can hold the grease, and once that grease starts getting heat and melting, you have the potential of that grease dropping into your food, and at that point, it's a health issue. I've seen restaurants been shut down by the health department for not cleaning their hood. I've seen restaurants been shut down by the fire marshal for not maintaining their hoods.
We take precaution in protecting the area from contamination. We use 2 layers of plastic sheeting in order to protect the appliances from coming in contact with any chemical. The second layer of plastic sheeting is wrapped around the hood and then a funnel is created. The funnel is used to drain the chemical, grease, and water into the plastic containers. The plastic sheeting also serves as a protective barrier in preventing the chemical from coming in contact with the food preparation area. Once we're completed and the plastic sheeting is removed, we'll conduct a fresh water wipe down and recommend to the client that they do the same prior to preparing any food.
According to NFPA 96, which is the agency that regulates this industry, the frequency of cleanings depends on the style of cooking you're conducting and the frequency of cooking. For example, if you cook with solid fuel is basically cooking with charcoal. Those are 30-day mandatory cleanings because they produce a lot more grease, and the ambers that come from the solid fuel can ignite the grease. If you're an occasional cooking facility, those would be a year.
Maurice Patterson, who co-owns MMP Environmental Solutions, walks us through how he cleans a grease trap in a restaurant kitchen.
Today, we will be cleaning a commercial grease trap in a Mediterranean restaurant. The function of a grease trap is to prevent any solids, fats, oil, and greases from dishwasher or dishwashing sinks from entering your piping system. So the cleaning process typically starts with me inspecting it, making sure it's functional. Typically, you want to clean your grease trap about every 3 months. I would say that it hasn't been in service, most likely close to a year. Then we unplug the grease trap and we start to remove all the components. From that step, we will prepare them to be cleaned with the pressure washer. So right here, we're doing our pump out. We have the wand connected to the high-powered vacuum pump. We'll use the wand to pump out the entire grease trap. So as you can see, there's a lot of greasing on top of the grease trap, and you can get a glimpse of solids that have floated to the top as well. For Mediterranean restaurants, you're going to get a lot of oils, cheeses. You're also going to get a lot of rice. The rice is usually the main contents that sink to the bottom of the grease trap that you're going to want to pump out regularly. I would describe it as yellow grease. So yellow grease is typically grease that's used to make fries or things like that. There's actually two different types of grease known in the industry. You have brown grease. That's typically grease that's scraped off from pots and pans that have traveled down into your dishwasher and your sink, down to your grease trap. And then you also have yellow grease. You can actually sell it. Certain places, they may recycle that grease and turn it into biofuel, things like that. It's considered liquid gold. Some companies will actually pay them for it. So they're incentivized to make sure that it's not going down the drain. Here, what I'm using is a putty knife. I'm scraping just old food waste that has collected on there. Organic waste just turns black over time. It's oxidized and turns black. It's a health risk, mainly because any type of overflows from your grease trap may come in contact with food. We use a pressure washer just to make sure we're getting all the residual solids cleaned out. I'm using steel wool just to do a final scrub down. Make sure I'm getting into all the nooks and crannies, all the tight spaces. I do this right before we do a final spray down with the pressure washer. So we dispose of the grease at a water pollution control facility that will accept the fats, oil, and grease. And there's not many places that do accept it. So it's limited, but we dispose of it in an environmentally responsible way. When grease goes down the drain with the dishwater, it's typically hot. So grease or oils, when they're hot, they're liquefied. When they cool down, they solidify in the drain. That may cause plugging, which will in turn cause backups, overflows. If it negatively impacts the sewer system, then they can incur fines. They will have to buy a new grease trap or pay plumbing fees to rectify the problems.
Steve, the owner of Superior Clean, walks us through how he cleans a commercial exhaust system.
We begin the cleaning process by removing the kitchen hood filters and wrapping the exhaust hood to ensure that we properly contain all of the greasy water. We'll start at the upper ductwork where the grease accumulates the most. The top of the ductwork here is where the grease, the smoke, and the heat exits. The purpose of cleaning the upper ductwork first is to ensure that we properly flush the entire ductwork back into the kitchen hood. So our goal as a certified hood cleaning company is to ensure that all accessible areas of the hood and ductwork are bare metal, meaning there is no grease left over and there's no possibility of a kitchen fire. So the way we start degreasing the system is with a high foaming agent, and we can mix in sodium or potassium hydroxide to strengthen up our mix. From there, we will scrape down the ductwork to ensure that all the thick grease is removed before we come back and hit it with high pressure steam cleaning. So what you're seeing here in this fast food establishment is the fatty grease that are being pulled into the exhaust system, and it's very watery, much different than you'll see in Chinese places or steakhouses that have more of a carbonized grease. Steakhouses are generally like built on carbon. Chinese places, you have extremely thick, gooey grease. We typically see with wok, peanut oil, it becomes a very rubbery substance. It's almost like a rubberized Gorilla Glue. It's extremely difficult to clean, and it requires a lot of scraping, degreasing. It moves down vertically to a horizontal 90 bend, and that's where the inline exhaust fan sits. To the left of the system, there are two access panels, which gives you the accessibility to scrape, degrease, and steam clean inside of the ductwork to make sure that the system remains bare metal. And that leads you into the kitchen where the exhaust hood is. Exhaust fans are generally the dirtiest part of the kitchen exhaust system due to it being the last point of passage before it exits. We just finished off with steam cleaning the upper ductwork, which flushes the grease down through the inline exhaust fan. And now we're moving to the inner blades. So what we're looking for when applying the degreaser on the exhaust fan blades in the ductwork is the foam. Once you start to see that the grease is turning into a yellowish tint of the color and it's foaming, you know that you're able to hit it with the hot water pressure washer. The temperature of the hot water pressure washer allows the grease to really soften up, and it moves a lot easier than trying to do with a cold water pressure washer. Now that we have flushed the entire ductwork back into the kitchen, we are able to apply a low pressure, high steam rinse of the kitchen hood. So the opening to the ductwork in the hood system starts behind the hood filters. The way we clean this is exactly as the rest of the system. We do not neglect any areas of the duct. This needs to be degreased, scraped, and steam cleaned.